Welcome to the 7th episode of the Kern Competence Podcast, a podcast about all things Kern and precision. Today I am once again joined by my co-host Simon, our CEO. Simon, welcome.
Good morning, Marvin.
It's been quite some time since we sat together and did a podcast together.
Yeah, absolutely. But you had two very nice podcasts with Sebastian Kugmos and Fabian Tripkewitz, I think, which I enjoyed listening. So I think it's good to mix a little bit. But I'm happy to be here again.
I enjoyed listening to them talk as well, but I have to say it's a lot less stressful to record a podcast with you compared to other people who are also a lot more nervous in the beginning. They're like, oh, what can I say? What can't I say? I'm like, chill. This is going to be fine.
Thank you.
You're just back from IMTS, 1 week back in Germany.
Oh, yes. So actually I was leaving here in absolute summer, 27 degrees, going to Chicago, wonderful weather, a very nice fair all the week. And then I came back to 5 degrees and snow here to Bavaria. Yeah, absolutely. So the fair was great while Sebastian went to AMB, which is ridiculously at the exact same time.
And it's like every year at the exact same time. Every 2 years
yeah.
It is, and it's always at the same time. I have no idea why they can't manage to shift those by like a month or something.
Yeah, and this is very stressful for us. We're in the first AMB and IMTS, I actually flew over at the middle of the fair, but everybody knows who's frequently visiting fairs is the magic happens in the first 2 or 3 days, and then it's really going down. So very rarely that you have strong Thursdays or Fridays, and this was the same this year. So at that time we decided to just split up. So there's one CEO at every fair, and honestly I have to say that IMTS for us is one of the, if not the most important fair we have worldwide.
I mean, it's most definitely larger or better visited than AMB. And I have the feeling while EMO, the other German trade show, which is every other year, while I have the feeling that one is a very international fair, my experience on AMB is it's pretty localized. The amount of English conversations I had at this exhibition was super low. It was mostly people from the German-speaking countries visiting.
Yeah. So AMB is, I would say, mostly Baden-Württemberg, and then it's Switzerland, Austria, the rest of Germany. There's a little bit of France, etc. But really, as you said, it's a local fair. I would say in a radius of 500 kilometers, you rarely have someone from really abroad. But Dave Precise this year actually flew over. He was at the IMTS, yeah. And then he joined AMB, which I think is pretty funny that an American guy flies to the AMB. It's a totally different fair. Also has its flair and differences, but you don't have that very often.
No. So getting back to IMTS, I think this was the largest ever Kern booth at IMTS.
Actually, we had the same booth as the year before.
Okay.
That's a little bit of a secret because IMTS is kind of it's a foundation-driven fair. So you have to be there for a very long time, and you have to be in the association to actually get a booth. And if you want to have a premium booth, there's a lot of things you have to do and do some handstands and whatnot to actually be in a prime spot. And we were super lucky 4 years ago. So actually it didn't happen at that time, but when everybody was backing out and we said we're always going to be at IMTS and left our money in, actually then we got the chance to get a better booth. And now we are in the middle of the Shark Tank. So it's Makino and Mazak and Mitsubishi and everyone is around us. So, which is pretty cool. So usually smaller ones, they are a little bit in the back of the hall, of the South Hall. And so we are happy where we are. And yeah, the booth design was a little different. It was not that Bavarian nostalgia and pictures of mountains, but it was really what we are about. And we were all very happy that, booth design and was very appreciated. by everyone. And we also had two machines there, one automated machine and one with TNC7, and we had a demonstrator for our new hydrostatic fourth and fifth axis, and I couldn't be more happy about the results and the meetings and the discussions we had.
Yeah, the demonstrator looked pretty cool. I saw it getting put up in the back of our factory, and I was like, whoa, how did they get a machine frame for this? And then I discovered, okay, it's just a mock-up frame, but it looked really cool. And I think it's pretty sweet if you start turning it. When the first video of someone, I don't know if it was you or Tony, turning it and the axis continues like on its own for like another half revolution, people immediately started writing me and they were like, where does all the resistance come from? And I'm like, guys, this is an industrial axis and you turn it with your finger and it continues spinning. This is insane. So yeah, I think people really, really love that one.
By the way, thank you very much for the Instagram post with the video of me mounting the part that actually you did to be able to turn it nicely, because you could see that I'm lacking a little bit of hair on the back of my head. So it was the worst kind. I've never seen that before, and I was just, oh my God. It's time to go to Turkey and get it done. No, I'm sorry. Yeah, the fourth and fifth was really amazing. So it was all very last minute. So you know that, and actually the overall design to test it and to spin it was fairly easy, and we were happy that it ran through the whole week absolutely flawlessly, and everybody could test it. And as you said, so it's quite a little bit of weight that you're moving, and it's just a hydrostatic, or in this case, to be perfectly honest, it was air that we used, and yeah, with this, even with this air gap, you can hear and feel that you have this wonderful effect that we also know from the three hydrostatic axis of the micro HD or HD plus. Yeah, which gives a lot of advantages, and it was really about to feel it. And yeah, unfortunately we have to send it, so we sent it the parts back now to get adapted here, but we will again have a demonstrator also in the United States in our showroom in Chicago to be able to feel it and test it.
Nice. I think I mean, we had, I was at AMB and we had the real micro HD plus there and it was running, but if you stand before the machine, I mean, our normal swivel axis is a very, very good mechanical swivel axis, and the bearings run super smoothly. So if you're standing in front of the machine, to the naked eye, there is no way to distinguish it. So people were like, oh, this is the new one. And we were like, yeah, it's fantastic. And then they were like, kind of looks the same. And we were like, oh, no, it's a little bit optimized. Can you see the shape is a little bit different? And they're like, yeah, okay. So I think the demonstrator actually was the better fair item than having the real deal there.
Yeah, and tell you a secret. So what we do when customers come to Eschenlohe, and fortunately we still, even in those little bit troubled days for investment goods or machinery, we have a lot of machines on the shop floor out there that are actually in a build-up phase. And what we often do is letting customers, if we put the hydrostatics on, machine is still dismantled, just the axes are there, and you can feel and push the axis with your finger, and you see, wow, it's a 360 kilograms, what the 3-axis weigh, and you can push it with a finger very easily back and forth, and you can actually feel the principle. And what I would love to see on the next big fair is that we have a demonstrator that can do the fourth and fifth axis, but also the 3-axis. So you can really see the 3-axis in motion, touch it, move it. I think exactly as you said. So in German you say begreifen. Translated would be to really touch it in the sense of understanding it.
Yeah, to grasp a concept.
Yeah, exactly. And therefore that might be a very nice thing. So it's a big effort because it's quite some material cost and effort to do something like that. But I'm willing and planning to have something like that for the next fair.
Okay, very nice. Yeah. IMTS also, besides the demonstrator, you mentioned the two machines, and you had a very nice new sample from Kern Precision there.
Yeah, it was a space shuttle. So our general, if you haven't seen it, you have a look at it.
It looks fantastic.
Yeah, it was super cool. Nice story also on that. So I think Chris Morris worked on that day and not for months.
Yeah.
Actually, so he had a hard time, and I think your first comment on the principle was, oh, you will have a very hard time getting that thing finished for the fair. And he was really energized and motivated by that to finish it. And I think it was some kind of also last minute, but actually it was flawless and very nice. And there was a special tool with a kind of how do you call that? A
small ridge to open it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this tool needs to be of course, in the tool magazine oriented. Mm-hmm. And the first thing I did when going through is looking at all the tools that are in, and I looked at this and pulled it out and looked at it. I actually kept the place in mind, but not the orientation. I said, what is that? I've never seen a tool like that. And I said, actually, this thing is the part to open it up. So we now have to realign it. So, which usually isn't a problem if you have the Kern interface, because then the tool always is oriented. But this one has a DIN interface, so it was another hour of actually putting it in back super oriented so that it runs flawlessly.
This is one of the reasons why we tell our CEOs don't touch anything.
You tell everyone, it was a little bit embarrassing, I have to
That's
say.
fine.
Chris gave me a hard time on that, by the way.
Yeah, I first heard about Chris doing the space shuttle, I think back in April. And my first reaction, I think it's also what I said to him, was like, well, you're young, you have to learn through your mistakes as well. Because I think we put an enormous amount of effort into nice exhibition samples. I know I spent many weekends milling them because it's great fun, but also because I'm kind of proud of the product we are doing and I want to show people the amazing things you can do. But something I had to learn over the past 6 years with Kern is there's never enough time if you do a project which has a lot of freeform surfaces. Mm-hmm. So over the years, I think I've reduced the complexity of my samples, make them easy to mill from like a programming and runtime aspect, and focus on like amazing technology. For example, the demonstrators we had at AMB, and you took a couple of them with you to IMTS as well, is those like screw heads, those POSI drive bits, which we manufactured, I think now in like 12 or 13 different materials, ranging from like super soft to a third of the hardness of diamond. And people are amazed by the technology. But each individual bit takes me like a day of milling. So this is something I can just like push into my regular schedule. An undertaking such as the space shuttle it's mind-boggling, and I'm very proud of Chris, and I know how many late nights he pulled to make that one work. And it absolutely looks fantastic. I think the first video I saw of it was like 2 days before IMTS, just before it got posted on Instagram. They sent it in like an applications WhatsApp group internally. And when it opened and you could see the RegoFix holders inside that one, I was laughing so hard. I was like, this is a fantastic idea.
Yeah, that was very nice. So, and by the way, also thank you very much for your efforts on the sample parts that we do. And I think it's there's also been a kind of a paradigm change. So in the past, this was my first Didier Gonnier, our French sales rep's gonna kill me because I'm never able to say the name correct. We call it the EPHJ. It would be EPHJ, and in French it's like or something like that. And we've been there, and everyone has a big kind of display and hundreds of parts in it. So what you want to achieve is that you're wandering around and you're looking for scroll wheels or for whatever. You find your specific part. And the relevancy of our product comes with having a sample part. And honestly, it's not about that. So the transfer in mind that you have to do is just to see, okay, here's the material and here are some features, but actually it's not a real part. It is, how would you call that? It's abstracted a little bit, so you understand what we are able to do, and you can transfer it to your objective or your mission. And I think we still have some concrete parts that actually help understand, but also there's bits, for example, that just show you what we're able to do without trying to be too much on the specific part. We're doing thousands of parts, and the topic always is you can put them all in a display and show it around. But I think this is by far more powerful. And this, by the way, I don't know if I told you, a lot of partners approached me on IMTS and said, the nicest was one of a very renowned CMM manufacturer from Germany, and he asked if he can possibly use our old parts that we don't show on the fair anymore. Which I of course said yes, because the effort you put in, but also we as a company, is also monetary huge. It's hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, but it's absolutely worth it, because we're not just doing something to show, but it's always things we develop and push forward. And what we do with these parts is just to see what happened in the last couple of years. Therefore, also with you, Marvin, we have a very nice progress continuously on the parts we show at the fair.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand our salespeople, and Didier, our French and Western European sales manager, is a perfect example for this. If you have a finished real part with a story, the sales pitch, if you meet that one customer it applies to, is super easy. So Didier asked at our yearly sales meeting in spring, he asked for an optomechanical housing. For once, I delivered on this because I was actually getting into the idea. And you had that housing with you at IMTS. Mm-hmm. And I mean, it's a real part. So if you meet a customer who's looking to do like small-sized, let's say spacefaring optomechanical housings, the pitch is there. You show him the part, he can like immediately recognize features of his part, and you're like, hey, this is the perfect machine for you. Okay, but that's one single customer. If you have, for example, something like those Posey drive bits, I mean, the shape itself is, for example, in Sapphire, it doesn't really make sense. But what makes sense on this part is to show off our machine can manufacture a super hard material in an economic viable time. You get good edge quality, you get very nice surface quality. It's so much more interesting from a technology point of view, but you won't find a single customer who's doing Sapphire Posey drive bits because it doesn't exist. So your sales pitch is much more difficult. So I can understand why the salespeople, and especially Didier, asked for like real parts. But again, talking about like runtime and preparation time, I told you like those bits, because we're just like so well versed in milling a plethora of different materials, those bits are minimum effort for like a maximum outcome. That optomechanical housing, while in itself it's nothing difficult, it's like aluminum. Still, you have to design something, then you have a lot of roughing to do on this part. You have to finish all of the surfaces, and because it's a sample part, it kinda needs to look good and not just be in specification. So normally on a customer part, if for example from the chamfer to the bottom floor on those like weight-saving pockets we had on the outside, if you had a small step there, I think no one would care, because it's just like time is money, and you don't want to spend like 20 minutes flawlessly finishing that one. On a sample part, you need to do it, because otherwise I'm going to get like 20 photographs of my sample part with people like, haha, Marvin, you did a bad sample there. So it's like absolute must to finish this one in perfection. And then you start working on something like this, and the optomechanical housing was a lot less effort than the space shuttle, but then you still spend like 2 weeks on it in order to fetch like one group of customers.
And what I nevertheless often see in here, and especially also on IMTS, we had this optomechanical housing on display. This was one display just for this housing. And I think I got the question 10 times if we are in optics. if we do things for optics. So actually, also showing that is often not enough. And this is something where I think we are a little different. For most of the machine manufacturers, the application, the process, the part is kind of a burden. So you want to sell a machine, and to sell the machine, you need to deliver the part. And therefore, we also have, from time to time, a hard time actually convincing customers to say, okay, we're not doing a test part for you, which we send in a wooden box, and you then use your CMM to measure and check on our measurements. But we want you to come to Eschenlohe and do these things together, because there's something in for us. And this is the knowledge that customers do have about the parts. So we put those things together. It's, you know better than I, but the team in application says it's twice or 3 times as exhausting as doing a test cut, because you need to be really crisp all the time. You need to have a solution very fast, and you work with a lot of stress and tension. But the outcome is always that both teams leave Eschenlohe, I should say, with more knowledge than they started with. And this is what we are interested in. So also getting the challenges is the topic. And we don't want them to say, yeah, we've done that, you can just take it. We know every single customer request is different. And if you come with the same part as a customer before, it's very likely that we say, oh, I'm sorry, we're out on this one. Because nearly every part that we do have an NDA. And so therefore, yeah.
I think this is the moment where customers are most stumped is, I had a couple of those conversations at AMB where they show you, for example, a drawing, and they are like, hey, can your machine do this part? And we are like, yeah, sure. And they're like, oh, nice. I would love to buy one. When can I come and you make that part for us? And we are just like, no, we're not going to make the part. And they are like completely floored, and they don't know what to say. And then you explain to them that, like, hey, this is easy. We've done this plenty of times beforehand. You just need to trust us. And this is a huge leap for some customers. But if you really have the challenge, if your part is so challenging that we are interested in it, then you get the chance to visit. So, yeah.
So, I'm saying something very unpopular now. It's even a little bit further. So we had in the past quite often that customers come with a part. They've never machined the material. They have no experience with the part at all. This is just like, if we can do the part according to the drawing and the tolerances in a specific period of time, so runtime of the part, then you will buy a machine. So they have a customer, the customer asks them for this part, they come to us, we do all the work, we take all the risk, and they are just in between and say, okay, if we can do it, they send the part to the vendor and or respect to the end customer. Sorry, it's not the vendor, it's the end customer, and then they buy the machine. This is something where I say today, no.
Yeah. Because
if you want to do business, you also have to take some risk. You have to put some work in. If it's as easy as that, if you're such an amazing guy that everybody else doing the work for you and you just make the money, I think that's not okay. So, and we have a lot of, I usually say, which we've never done, but I usually say we have a contract manufacturing. If I do all the work, we could also run it through the contract manufacturing. And then all the work, the knowledge, and those things would be there. So, of course, it's not that black and white, but this is what I truly believe. So we just make a difference when we put energy in. And if we really use all our knowledge and abilities to make things work. And this is actually what motivates people here also on the team to get those things done. And so therefore, I think in the meanwhile, this is very, very rarely, once or twice a year in special occasions, where we have a project like that, where we really develop the whole thing. But yeah, you see that also, we have customers in the meanwhile with a lot of machines from us, and they always rely on our ability, which is okay. So we do that for them, but they have more than 50 machines, and no one in the company is able to actually improve a process or set up a new one. They always need us for every step they take. And I think this is something that, or not I think, I'm sure this is something that we want to avoid. We want to have customers that are able to push the boundaries in their kind of field of activity.
Yeah, but I mean, for me, this is most of the times one of the sales pitches for Kern is that you actually get that help. So, I mean, we have a lot of customers in like the big American tech companies, and a lot of their operators are chatting with me regularly, getting some help on like cutting data. And whenever they are complaining about like, I mean, there's some things that come with us being a small company. And whenever they complain about one of those things, I try to highlight, well, the other side is we are a small company. We're not leaving you alone. If you buy a machine from like a global leading sales company, well, you're not going to get the same support you get from us. At which machine tool company can you call the applications department, like actually call them and get help on the same day? And so, yeah, there's upsides and there's downside, but I think like one of the big upsides is the help and especially the technical competence you get when you talk to Kern.
Yeah. This is something that I think we already talked about. So I would say small enough to care, big enough to dare. So this is the wonderful spot we're in right now. So and I got also wonderful feedback on that already. And you're right, there's an in-between. If you take care about your process, you're pushing things, we're always there for you. And if you're in trouble, if people change, then you need to get up to speed. We have a training center here, but also we have the applications department that is there to support, because this is the one golden rule, is we are successful if the customers are successful. And this is not just a saying. So the other day, one of the, I would say, biggest or most powerful facts about Kern is there hasn't been a single micro on the used market ever. And the reason is you're gonna make money with that thing, no matter what. It's gonna earn you money. And we had I don't know, 20 at least in the last 2 years that say, okay, can I trade in a Vario for a micro HD? And say, of course, give you a good price for a micro Vario because I have a list of people who want to buy a used machine. It never happened. They always say at the end, so if I'm gonna run the micro Vario, 50% of the time it's still gonna make me money, and therefore, yeah, they don't leave home, they don't move unless it's a big global corporation or something like that. That is different. And coming also back to IMTS, that's what I heard from the Installationists meeting on IMTS is we really care about people and what they say, what they feel, what they talk. We know that we are carried, our message, our goal, our mission is carried by the people, not necessarily owning a Kern, but actually they like what we do, and this is important for us. So therefore we are there. And the last thing we would do is backing out of an IMTS because of budget reasons or something like that. And I heard that many times. I have a lot of appreciation, for example, for GF or whatever, but not being at IMTS. If you're not at AMB is in Baden-Württemberg, where we call it Schwabenland, and the Swedish people, no, it's the Schwäbisch people.
Swabian people, yes.
Swabian people, thank you. They are known for really being
frugal with their money.
Yeah, absolutely. I also once said that they have a hedgehog in their pocket. That's what we call it. And so if you back out of AMB because of budget reasons, everybody's going to understand and say, okay, they're making a good decision not spending the money. In the United States, is you own a Kern. You come to the IMTS, and whatever mission you have on that fair, you want to visit Kern, you want to chat, you want to have a black market beer or something like that, or a sandwich or whatever, or talk to Tony, talk to me, talk to Fabian Tripkewitz or to Chris Morris or Andy or Dan or whomever, and you want us to be there and have time for you and make the effort. And if you're not there, people are really disappointed. And I don't know how many times I've heard how disappointed people are when you have a big company and you just save the money. And next thing is also, I don't want to bash those companies, but for example, DMG just taking all the efforts the companies make for IMTS, for example, making their own open house event. So at least they do something, but they take the advantage of the fair without contributing to it is also something what I heard quite often, that it doesn't feel right. So for us, it's important to be there to meet people, especially the Wednesday with I don't know how many folks that were there was just
the photos were enormous
and awesome.
And I mean, I'm always surprised by this. I mean, we spent a lot of time together talking about like marketing strategy, and with you it feels like we are a super modern company, but at the end of the day you have to remember we are like an Upper Bavarian machine tool company. This screams tradition. And from all of like those super large companies coming to IMTS, we are the ones hosting the Insta Machinist meetup, which I think is super cool. And I think when the topic came up, there was not a moment of hesitation from our side to do it. But it's really nice because, I mean, it could, for example, be Haas hosting this one, and then pretty much every second person going to that meeting would have a Haas. It would make a lot of sense for them. But if we are hosting it, probably less than 1% of the people attending have a Kern, but everybody is amazed and wants to come there. And I think this is a really nice community effort there as well. And I'm very proud that we are hosting something like that.
Yeah, I feel the same. So this is just like having a big, and I don't want to overdo it, but it's just like, this is a group that comes together, that you feel from the first moment on that belongs together. So it's like a big family, and people say, wow, I know this guy forever, but I've never seen him. And just having this meetup is great. I wasn't aware that actually this is one of the only, very few, or even only meetings the group has in 2 years. So we are super happy to host them, and it's all, I would say, intrinsically motivated, and it's not about Kern. So that is the cool thing. So we just have the space, and which, by the way, it is super cool. If you haven't been there, the whole South Hall is empty, and our booth is just so crowded that nobody knows how to pass by or whatever. This is just super cool. And the other exhibitors, they look around where all the people are, and then they see there's a big crowd at our booth, and usually the next day they ask me, what happened there? As nothing commercial, so it was just a gathering. And this is, if you have a Kern or not, if you're interested in Kern or not, we don't care. So the main thing is everybody with, I would say, a similar mindset and interest meets up there, and we have a good time together, and we always have. So this is great.
Yeah, nice. I was quite surprised, and from our previous chats about the exhibition, like before this podcast, I kind of expected, because the market is tough at the moment for the majority of mechanical engineering companies. I was kind of expecting people to come to our booth and whine, just being like being really disappointed and complaining about how tough everything is. And to my large surprise, this didn't happen at AMB. And I think it was similar at IMTS, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was even so a little bit better, I would say. So the enthusiasm in the United States is kind of in a ways different than Germany. So if you look at German, I don't know if I've told the story before, but well, anyways, tell it quickly again, is if you see a key account developing here in Germany, and a key account is usually someone, it's a bad word actually, because we have one single machine customers that we consider being a key account, and everybody's important, so let me say that. But key accounts developing here, very slow. So usually they wait until the machine is 120, 25% full. People start complaining because if the machine's down 5 minutes, it's already a nightmare. And then they consider buying a new one. And then some things in between, like Corona or whatever, or Russia or Ukraine or whatsoever. And then finally, after 4 years, they buy the second machine, and it's already at least 3 years too late. The same thing in the United States, and this is, I don't know if I'm allowed to say the name, but I love those guys really from at the bottom of my heart. It's Martin Machining, so they have their 40 years anniversary this year, and I'm super sad. I'm invited, but I can't come because I'm flying into the United States the week after. So they bought the first machine, they tested it for 6 weeks and said the machine's awesome. It is what we wanted. So we buy a second one. Before the second one arrived, they bought the third one. Yeah. And in the meanwhile, I think they have 4. And of course, we support as good as we can, but they are extremely knowledgeable, super nice people. This is just, and in a very short amount of time, they became a really big Kern customer that is successful with what they are doing, and we also hope in the future, as their business evolves, that we also participate and help with doing that. And that's a big difference, I would say, between the United States and Germany. And in the US, as long as the environment is good, so with the interest rate right now we have in the United States, you wouldn't sell a machine in Germany right now. Everybody would say, oh, nee, too expensive. We wait for better times. Let's better wait. In the US, it's just like, okay, works out. We're going to make money with that. The business model is carrying, so let's go for it. And the best example for that is we sold a machine on the fair.
Yeah.
So there's someone coming, they ask, are you in optics? and now they bought a machine. The machine is adapted. It will be delivered in this year. So we have 2 machines that I always have in stock for IMTS, because there are people there that say, I need the machine, but I want it this year. And I say, in the first year, we couldn't do that. So, Kern machine is 6 months at least waiting time, because this is what we need to order the machine, so to speak. And so in the meanwhile, we have pre-assembled machines that we can adapt to just fulfill this American need to be fast.
Yeah, this is so weird to me to hear that people buy machines on the exhibition and without preparation. So I mean, on German trade shows, other machine tool companies do it. They sell machines on show, but it's always prepared. It's like the sales manager was talking to that potential customer for a couple of weeks already, and he told them, hey, if you come by the exhibition, you get a little bit of additional discount. And then our general sales manager is happy because we sold a machine at the exhibition, and you get the machine a little bit cheaper. So it's always prearranged. I know no German company who would ever consider, hey, let's go to an exhibition and buy a machine for hundreds of thousands of euros just because you like the look of it. Mm-hmm. And this happens in the US. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah. So, to be honest, so if the project, if selling a machine, this is just the first step, as I said. If you want this machine to be successful, work has to be done anyways. And this is the promise that even if you bought the machine, we're gonna take care that you are able to run the machine professionally, sustainably, and of course, successfully monetary-wise also. Yeah. And this is what has to be done very often afterwards. And we had some examples just in the United States, never in Europe. And in 40 years, we didn't sell a machine on the fair. This is just with IMTS. In 2022, that was the first, I think, 2 or even 3, Tony will know, machines we sold on the fair. And this time 1, which is still a big success, because that's not what we are aiming for.
No.
Opportunity, occasion. This is something that for a German often creates pressure. And if a German gets pressure, he tends to back out.
You know? Yeah. I mean, that monetary success for our customers, I think this is one of the reasons why very few people I spoke to at AMB were complaining about the commercial situation. Mm-hmm. for the past 6 years, I think the mechanical engineering world has been going from like one major crisis to the next one. First was the car industry, then it was COVID, then it was like the market collapsing because of Russia, and now everybody is super hesitant. And our customers, and we as well, are doing very well. I think one of the main reasons for this is differentiation, especially product differentiation. And this is something I think we should dig a little bit deeper into, also to leave the subject of IMTS behind. I think our products are very different, and that word kind of consists in the word differentiation as well, from the rest of the market. Recently, one of our customers, a very good customer, told me he was kind of surprised at trade shows. You always see those like impeller machining, and everybody's telling you like once you have a 5-axis machine, you're gonna machine impellers. And he always thought, and I believe the same thing, okay, this is just like a bullshit exhibition sample. There can't be enough impellers. And he now has a Kern micro vario, and he's doing a ton of impellers as contract manufacturing. But his machine is like super quick on those. We know the vario is like leading performance on impellers. And he's doing a part that not every other shop can do. He's an American customer. In America, I would say the majority of machines are still like 3-axis machines, and machining an impeller on 3-axis machines is like super difficult. So he has some competing edge. He has some differentiation. And this is one of the reasons why he can't save himself from like work. He just like has tons of work. And I think this is one of the major points why there is no used machine on the market. You are going to be successful with our machine because it is different from the rest of the market.
So absolutely right. What is it that makes us different, or how do we achieve that? And this is really complicated. But one thing is that if you look at the organizations, and I do have a lot of respect for that, but I'm a little bit of an, at least it feels like that from time to time, like an alien in that group, because most of the times the companies are run by engineers. And this is a wonderful thing because we all like new stuff, we all like technology. And so I would say looking at those companies and things they develop, there's a common sense always in that. Of course, also in engineer-driven companies, you have very good innovations that lead to success. But what we're trying to do differently is having a real process on achieving relevant innovations. Or what does Sebastian always say? It's not innovation, it's
inventions.
Inventions, yeah. He's very crisp on that definition.
Textbook definition.
Yeah. And so let me give you an example. So there are NPIs, new product introductions, and NTIs, new technology introduction. NTIs usually don't focus necessarily on a commercially available product, commercially successful product, but need to be like, for example, hydrostatics. So before we come up with Micro HD, we had multiple projects in the forehand that allowed us to manage and master hydrostatics in a moving access system, for example. And the goal behind that is that, or the target, really is something that we make out by being very close to our customers. And it's not only customer-inspired innovation, because if you ask 100 of our customers, what should we do? We get a list, and I promise you that if you go down that list, you will be kind of medium-like successful with the things you do, but you're never going to be able to make a big step forward because there are articulated needs and unarticulated needs. But the more you know about those people, the better your ideas can be. And the tough thing is, as an engineer, you want to develop something that is not necessarily something people need, articulated or unarticulated, and bringing that together, so where the inspiration's coming from, this is something. I give you an example. I always say, on a commercial standpoint, a micro vario with linear drives would be awesome. And Matthias Fritz
Someone
always
is kindling here.
it's going to be worse kind of a machine, and it's going to be more expensive. So the machine is going to perform worse than it does today, and it's going to be more expensive. And we are continuously talking about that because I know that others using that argument against us and saying it doesn't have linear drives, and there's no linear drives better than ball screws. But actually, if you look at the microvarios, as you said, that are out in the market, they perform outstandingly, and from a price value, this is a crazy good machine. So, but this would be something that is very, I should say, sales oriented, while we have other things like, for example, jig grinding at that time. So allowing a customer to mill and to jig grind on the same machine, the same clamping, same workpiece, no changes of the machine, is a big step forward. And we have a lot of, in the field we are in the meanwhile, we have different kind of operations where you usually have 1, 2, or 3 machines. In the past, for example, roughing or pre-machining, and then you go to a microvarios or a micro machine, and then you have some jig grinding operations afterwards, or the other way around. So you change machines 3 times, you have 3 footprints on the shop floor, and of course you have 3 investments. So this is what we see very often today, that roughly a third of our machines have jig grinding packages on it, because it does make total sense. And this is, for example, something we dig very deep into and investigate, and we see, oh, there's even more. There's more we can do. And then we have inventions or innovations like Micro HD Plus that is going to enable something right away, going to have some advantages. I guess we will talk about that. But also is a leading step and an important step for enabling even more in the future. And if you see, and this is just like we had on the AMB, we had a big sticker on the machines that says with real hydrostatic.
Yes.
Because some others claimed, how do you translate it, quasi-hydrostatic?
Yeah. Like hydrostatics, comparable to hydrostatics.
Yeah.
And it was not only one company you could read this from. Okay. I think similar to how other companies are saying, oh, you need a linear motor in a machine, a lot of companies are hearing, why don't you have hydrostatics? People are interested maybe in a other precision machine, and they are like, well, Kern showed me their system, and it's totally convincing that you have to avoid stick and slip friction, and you kind of need hydrostatics. So what did they come up with? They said, well, their guideway, their regular roller bearing guideway, behaves like a hydrostatic. I think there is a Swiss company who is producing those guideways that are like hydrostatic. And the funny thing is, they still have exactly the same stick-slip behavior as every other guideway. The only improvement they made is they have additional rows of roller bearings inside them, and for that reason, you get less of a pulsation. So normally when you have a roller guideway bearing, you have those cages, and every time one of those bearing bolts enters the cage, it slightly lifts the cage because, well, you have more bearing surface then. And that lift, it's in the 10th of a micrometer range. But it's something that is visible if, for example, you are doing diamond finishing. And the innovation on those hydrostatic guideways is, well, they have more rows, so bolts are entering and exiting the cage more often, which reduces that pulsation of lifting the cage. So if you just look at an interferometer reading of the Z error of that guideway, it improves. And that is the only improvement, which I would say for the majority of parts, unless you're doing diamond finishing, has no relevancy, because if you have a lift of usually those bolts are spaced 1/8 of an inch, 3 millimeter, and every 3 millimeters your machine lifts 1/10 of a micrometer, well, who cares? This is not something you're going to either see on the surface or be able to measure. But what you can measure is whether you have stick and slip. So a friend of mine, Stefan Gotteswinter, who's a very famous YouTube influencer, he always tells people roundness comes from a bearing. And Stefan visited, I think 3 months ago, and we spent a Saturday milling. He was really annoyed, and he was like, I don't want to change my view on the world, but here kind of the roundness, okay, I believe your roundness comes from the motion system. And this has been something we've been telling people all the time. We can do a very, very round part by interpolation. And this is because we have hydrostatics, no stick slip. So when you do a full circle movement and the axis has to switch direction, there is no backlash compensation. It's just like flawless motions. And sorry for detouring here, but this is, I think, a differentiating feature on our machine where we really have technology, and it took a lot of effort, like you explained, took a lot of effort to develop this technology. And yes, you can write in your marketing brochure, it's like hydrostatics, quasi-hydrostatic. It behaves like hydrostatics, but it's not the same deal, and it will never compare.
And thank you very much for mentioning it. It's really not about bashing the other. So the good thing about that, and that makes us also a little create some pride, is that people refer to that. So I think before hydrostatic hasn't been a topic at all. So with micro HD and with the success we've had and our customers especially, so this became a thing, and they are not trying to bash hydrostatics, but they say, we can create an effect that is similar, which is something like, okay, we did something which we know, but we did something that actually is meaningful. And it's not that easy to copy. And that is the point I want to make. And now we come to a life lesson. So Simon's life lessons is there's no free lunch. You cannot shortcut anything. So you cannot go and say, I just take this finished part. It's as good as. No, it's not. If you want to move on, and you really have to be in that whole atmosphere of the problem. If you really want to solve it, there's effort behind that. Sometimes the solution is easy. I'm not saying it's always complicated, but in this particular case is when people worked on machine tools since hundreds or more than 100 years, and you come up with something that you solve in 3 months, you should really ask yourself, is this true? So can it be real? And for us, hydrostatics, for example, also in micro HD, was a huge effort. And now we see commercializing it, seeing those machines running for 5-6 years flawlessly since then. Just say, okay, continue that path. But the path this is not an autobahn, it's actually a rocky road, and it just takes effort. And if somebody then claims, we also have that now, we just changed some minor things. The only thing I can say about that is, or react to that, is a little smile, because I know this is not going to happen.
It's kind of nice. We created that demand for a different technology on the market, and now people are obviously looking around and seeing whether someone else can create this. So I think this is something our development can be very proud of, because they created a real demand. If you look into the theory of economics, like that product differentiation theory, it came up first in the 1930s. And back then, the theory was, if you have comparable products, you have some features with which they differentiate themselves in front of the customer. One of those would, for example, be price. So if you have two similar products and one is cheaper, customers are obviously going to go for the one there. And for a long time, that theory didn't really advance because, economic theories are really hard to master. And in the early 2010s, that theory changed drastically. And nowadays, with product differentiation, economics believe that customers choose the product that is most suited to what they think their demand is. And price and looks of the product have gone down. And I think this is very true if you look at our machines. The customer identifies with a feature where he or she thinks they have a demand for this. A lot of the time, I would say people buying an HD don't really need the HD. The Vario would be totally fine, but they identify some demand they have, they identify with the HD, and they want to have that machine.
And I also think there's a combination. So that there's something I also already mentioned with Simon's Sinek, the golden circle. is people don't buy what you do, but why you do it. And I think this is something that we are all pretty proud of, and that's what I said with the community around us, that seem to appreciate what we're doing, how we're doing it. Not shortcutting, but really putting the effort in creating new stuff, inventions or innovations, and more or less using all our money for that. So the commercial success we had, we really put back into the company to sharpen this profile. And it's not necessary that we grow year by year. The most important thing is that we can actually, of course, pay our employees well, take care about our Kern family, and of course do our developments. And what you often see, and I heard that on the IMTS, why are we standing here? Why are we doing things like that? Why are we continuously driving innovation? Because we are a company, so therefore we are always commercially driven, but not to a certain extent. So we take the freedom we have to the commercial success to do what we believe is important and what needs to be done. And I think that makes the difference. And when you buy a Kern, you join us on this journey. And this is what I feel. Of course, not everyone's the same, but this is something that makes the difference. And coming also back to the differentiation, 20 years ago, the niche was something you don't want to be in. You want to scale and get bigger. That's still also in the United States, is grow your business no matter what. You need growth. And of course you need growth. You have inflation, all that stuff. So your cost is going up. So therefore also your sales needs to go up to, at the end of the day, have a significant margin. But also besides that effect, is the most sustainable way to do that is, of course, being differentiated. And you can be very differentiated in a niche. If you're in a commodity, there are totally different rules. As you said, it's about price. It might be about things like perception, quality perception, not even quality, but just the perception of it, the brand and things like that. That is a topic. Short story. On IMTS, we were invited by NS Tools from Japan for dinner. We use a lot of their tools because they are really good. And I always say we are the least loyal partner when it comes to things like that. As long as you're the best, we're with you. Yeah. And I said that at the very first meeting, but if you fall behind and there's something better, there's no way we're going to promote you on that. We promote when you're the best. And so they invited us for dinner into Michael Jordan's steakhouse. I've never been there before. It's in Chicago, and as I heard, it belongs to Michael Jordan. I'm not sure if this is right. But I thought, oh my God, if you need the brand Michael Jordan to actually run a steakhouse, your product most likely is not superior to others. But what I learned is it really was. I had a fabulous piece of steak, and sorry for all the vegans and vegetarians, but I really enjoyed it. This was really good. But most of the time, brand is used also to create a kind of an effect that, I should say, blurs some failures or inferiors in the product. So actually, creating a superior brand made of quality is always also, how should I say, it's like Coca-Cola. There's not, the most important thing is that you don't make any mistakes. So the only thing you can do is ruin it. That's what my sales guy said. There's some point in project where you can just fail. Everything is done, so the whole thing is looking good, but the only thing you can mess it up. That's the only thing that can happen. And so therefore we're trying to create also a brand that shows we're taking risk also in terms of the things we're doing and developing. And not every idea, not every invention or new technology actually makes it into a sellable or viable product. And I think this is also important. Also, the things we're working on right now, the risk was huge. The investment is incredible. If this thing would fail, it would be a nightmare. But we need to take the risk, because otherwise you're going to stay where you are. Nothing's going to happen. You're not going to enable new things. And the market is developing. So we see that many industries and customers, they say we need more. We need to have this, we need to have that, we need to be more precise, we need to be faster, we need to enable this and that operation on the machine. So, and if you want to follow that, you can't do that with just exchanging your ball screws.
Yeah, I mean, this is a very nice lead over to our new machine, the Micro HD Plus. Something people, I'm kind of like, when I was explaining the machine to existing customers at the AMB, they were like, oh, this is nice, but is it a huge leap? And you have to remember, we spent 5 years on developing that concept. It's not like that after we launched the HD, we sat down for like a year and twiddled our thumbs and everybody went on vacation, and we didn't stop developing during COVID. So like, this was a major effort developing this swivel axis. And yes, some of it can be counted as marginal gains. So it's like 20% stiffer or something. Okay, for some customers, this is going to mean 20% better parts. But this is in the range of marginal gains. But for example, on the C-axis, the runout, Fabian mentioned in the last podcast, it's in the range of like 80 nanometers. This is absolutely absurd on an industrial milling machine. And this, once again, means we need to change our story. We always told people, well, roundness doesn't come from a bearing, it comes from a motion system. And now roundness, once again, comes from a bearing. But this is going to be huge for the market. This is such an increase in precision. Fabian mentioned in the last podcast as well that we tried to get the parts for this axis, because they need kind of good roundness, that we tried to get them manufactured somewhere. And everybody refused, because even like manufacturers renowned for having the most precise round grinding machines, they were like, yeah, this part is impossible. So we did it on a regular HD. Okay. But now we actually have the machine that is easily able to do sub-micron roundness on like large and complicated parts, combining those processes. So I think for the Micro HD Plus, especially that round grinding or round milling application is going to be huge on the market. This is really going to differentiate you. You're going to be able to offer roundness that no one else was able to offer before in a productive environment.
Absolutely. And wait until we manufacture the HD Plus parts on an HD Plus.
Yeah.
Because it's a wonderful principle I learned when I joined the company here, is you create more and more precise machines with more and more precise machines. So I like that principle a lot. And we are all waiting for the first part dropping of the Micro HD Plus. And you are, Marvin, you're absolutely right. So at that point, when I look at the fourth and fifth axis, you said that it's stiffness, the precision we have, Rundlauf?
Yeah,
Runout. Sorry, words pay me on this one. But also temperature stability.
Yeah. And
the temperature stability is a big thing. So if you use the fourth and fifth, especially B or C also, for a longer period of time is going to give you a great advantage in terms of stability. But HD Plus is not only the fourth and fifth, that's the biggest part. It's also the CSC spindle. And you might say, yeah, others have CSC spindles too. This is something that we buy from Fischer in Switzerland. But the amount of effort we put into the temperature management system of that is what we heard from Fischer. Nobody ever did before. And if you control the temperature of the coolant of the spindle, of the core of the spindle, and you bring that to the max, and it all contributes to the overall, reliability and precision of this machine, bringing it a little step forward, honestly. But it's also not like HD Plus is 150K more than an HD. It's not. I can tell you right now how much it is. Differs from country to country. No, I'm just kidding. But it's a pretty reasonable price for what you get on top of that, because we also know in the first place it's going to make a difference for some of our customers. And there are others, as you said before, that just say, okay, I don't know what's going to happen in the next 2 years. I want to be prepared in the best possible way. And we see that very often. So even on the fair, so the machine we've sold on the fair, it's an HD for 12 months, and then we're going to exchange it into an HD Plus if they still want. I think that they are super happy with HD, and it might be, as it always is, that they refuse to give the machine back, and we're talking about another one, or not exchanging it at all. But this being prepared for the future, this is something that we offer. So you're not gonna fall behind in the next 3, 5, or whatever years if you buy a machine from us, because we want to be as much ahead of time that you will not fall behind in the next 10 years. Therefore, this machine also, or machines are in operation for like ever. So Pyramid Nano, 15 years plus, which really, so we have a customer that then called me and said, so the freedom of the Western world is in the hand of this machine. To say, wow, okay, a 15-year-old Pyramid Nano, I'm not sure how to feel about that, but actually the machine is still doing an awesome job. So because of hydrostatics also, yeah.
Very nice. Okay, we are already like 5 minutes into your next meeting, so we kind of need to cut this, well, not short, but to finish up the podcast soonish. Usually at the end of the podcast, I ask you a very difficult question. This time you're not prepared at all. I usually tell you to tell us about something cool that happened to you in the past month. But this time I'm interested, I'm asking, how is your new dog?
Oh, God, Jesus, yeah. Oh, and I was prepared this time. I will tell it anyways. My new dog is just awesome. So I have a little bit of a stressful life. So my wife thought the best idea for my birthday is to get me a mini sausage dog. So a mini dachshund.
So cute.
And I always want, for the guys that listen, so I would say older than 1985, they sure know The Labyrinth, the movie with David Bowie. I don't know if if the English title is the same. In German it was Labyrinth. And in this movie there starred Sir Didymus, which was a dog actually, and a knight, and he was riding a bobtail whose name was Ambrosius. So my new dog's name is Ambrosius, which I figured out is the immortal. So that was not intentionally, because he's really super small. I think he's 30 centimeters now in the meanwhile, with long ears, and I will send you a picture. And I'm having the most wonderful time. It is like having a baby at home, because he starts crying immediately when I'm not there, or fortunately my wife in the meanwhile, because I couldn't go to work and leaving him alone. So he loves her as much as he loves me in the meanwhile. But we're having a wonderful time. So he's just awesome, fun. So even he just needs to walk or run down a hallway or something like that, and you're happy, I can tell you, because everything's flying. Yeah. Ears are flying, tail is flying, feet are flying everywhere. It's just like a super uncoordinated kind of movement. It's just like everything's in motion. It's like an avalanche.
Very cool.
Yeah. And but one thing I want to mention quickly, something I'm happy about, or I'm looking forward to, is actually today. This is the first time in more than 10 years I go to the Oktoberfest, and I have an appointment with Sebastian. And this afternoon we're gonna pack ourselves together. We're gonna dress up in lederhosen and driving with some partners into the Wiesn. We have a place in a tent. We're gonna have some beers, and hopefully somebody's gonna pick us up in the evening and drive us home.
Yeah, it's Oktoberfest time. Most Americans are really surprised when they hear Oktoberfest is happening in September, but well, it is a thing. It's celebrating the end of the summer, and In Germany, usually, I mean, today the weather is kind of turning, but we had like a fantastic weather on the weekend. Usually, like the end of September in Germany, they call it Old Women's Summer because the temperature is so pleasant. So it makes a lot of sense for that festival to happen at the end of September. Well, I wish you a lot of fun tonight with Sebastian. Don't do anything I wouldn't do.
Yeah. Okay. I cannot think.
Now the level is really low of your criminal deeds. Very nice. Simon, thank you for your time.
What about you? Usually you also share something that you really enjoyed in the last month.
I had a fantastic weekend motorbiking. So on AMB, I managed to pick up the flu at the exhibition. So I had it was really down the past 1.5 weeks. But this weekend I've been feeling really, really great. And because the weather was so nice, I spent the majority on the weekend on my motorbike. And you mentioned that everything was like full of snow when you came back from IMTS. So now the snow is only on the peaks of the mountains and everything turning to fall colors. But at the same time was like really nice temperature for motorbiking. So I had like probably the best weekend of this summer motorbiking. It was really good.
Cool. Nice story.
Okay. Simon, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Marvin.
Talk to you soon.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.